Welcome back, you seeker of understanding, to another deep dive. Today we're setting our sights on a truly fascinating session of the Law of One. Session 52. Get ready as we explore some really intricate concepts surrounding interdimensional movement, the very unfolding of consciousness, and the crucial roles played by our inner discipline and, well, focused intention. Our guiding star, as always, is the direct transcript of this profound exchange. Our mission on this deep dive is to meticulously unpack each question and response, drawing out the key insights and offering a richer understanding of this pivotal material tailored just for you. And with me once more to illuminate these pathways is our insightful expert. Welcome.
Thank you. It's always a privilege to explore these depths together.
All right, let's dive right in then. Session 52 kicks off with the questioner looking for some clarity on something Ra mentioned before. You might recall, Ra had suggested that fourth, fifth, and sixth densities in other galaxies, and even some within our own, had, well, cultivated personality disciplines for thought travel more than folks in our galaxy. So the first question is basically asking, does this mean other galaxies are just generally more advanced in this ability? What's the key thing Ra clarifies right off the bat?
Yeah, the first thing, and it's really important, is Ra offers a gentle correction. They point out that when they used the term galaxy before, they weren't actually talking about, those huge spiral structures out there.
Ah, okay. Not the whole Milky Way necessarily.
Exactly. Ra specifies they were referring to our star system, our solar system. And this is crucial because it completely shifts the perspective. The idea that other galaxies are inherently more advanced in this way, Ra says that's not quite right.
So it's not about comparing whole galaxies.
No. Ra emphasizes there are simply many other star systems, countless journeys happening. It's about diversity, not a simple, more advanced scale across entire galaxies. It stops us from making those broad cosmic assumptions.
Right. That's a really helpful clarification. Keeps the focus more local in a cosmic sense. So the conversation then moves naturally to what the questioner calls the great work in evolution. That's the discipline of personality. And this gets contrasted with the slingshot effect, which is more about technological travel between dimensions. Then the questioner asks something interesting. Is that slingshot effect more of an intellectual thing, a, quote, left brain understanding? How does Ra respond to that?
Well, Ra first acknowledges that the questioner's perception is quite insightful. They see the connection being made. But interestingly, Ra prefers to steer clear of the right brain, left brain labels. They mention potential inaccuracies, even reversals in some beings.
Okay, so avoiding potentially flawed human models.
Precisely. But the core of the response goes deeper into what technology is. Ra calls it the birthing of the manipulation of the intelligent energy of the sublogos.
Hmm, sounds complex, like manipulating the energy of our local reality.
Sort of, yes. It could even point towards future tech, maybe gravitic drives or something similar. But here's the main point Ra makes, and it's a recurring theme. Outer technology, while useful perhaps, is far less valuable for personal evolution than the inner work.
The inner disciplines of mind, body, spirit.
Exactly. Because that's what leads to true self-knowledge, understanding ourselves as microcosms reflecting the macrocosm.
So technology might be a faster way to, say, travel, but it skips the inner development.
That's the essence of it. Ra gives this wonderful analogy, the hitchhiker versus the one who walks.
Ah, I remember this.
The hitchhiker uses technology, gets there quickly maybe, but they're detached from the actual journey, the effort.
Right.
The walker, though, through personal discipline, experiences every step, learns the terrain, builds inner strength. The experience is just so much richer, more integrated.
So the destination might be the same, but the transformation happens for the walker.
Perfectly put. It really drives home that genuine evolution comes from cultivating our inner landscape.
That analogy really sticks with you. Okay, so moving on from that, the questioner wants to know how this plays out in higher densities. They ask about positively oriented groups, social memory complexes, in fourth, fifth, and sixth density. Do they use both methods, the slingshot and the personality travel?
Ray explains that for the positive groups, the main goal, the focus, is definitely learning those mind, body, spirit disciplines. That's the path. However, there's a degree of practicality. If technology, these intelligent energy forces, is readily available, some might use it for travel while they're still developing their own inner abilities.
So it's not strictly one or the other, at least initially?
Not necessarily exclusive, no. But the direction, the evolutionary intent, is clearly towards self-mastery, towards relying on the inner capacity.
Like learning to swim, but maybe using a floaty for a bit while you get the hang of it?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. The ultimate goal is confident swimming, unaided.
Makes perfect sense.
Mm.
So, building on that, the questioner then suggests, maybe assumes, that a higher percentage of these positive groups would favor the personality disciplines for travel. Is that hunch correct?
Yes, Red absolutely confirms that.
Right.
Spot on. And they add something significant. As you move from positive fifth density into sixth density, reliance on outer tech for travel and even for communication, it virtually disappears.
Wow, really? No more external devices needed.
Pretty much. It shows that trajectory of positive evolution, less need for external tools as inner awareness and ability just become more potent and refined. It points towards direct consciousness-based interaction.
That's a really compelling picture of positive growth. Okay, let's shift gears then. The questioner turns to the negatively oriented groups. What about them? What are the ratios for using the slingshot versus personality discipline across the densities?
This is fascinating. Ara gives a pretty specific breakdown. For fourth density negative entities, it's about 80% relying on technology. The slingshot or gravitic light effect,
Why so high?
Ra suggests it's because their focus is so much on external control and manipulation rather than the rigorous inner discipline needed for thought travel.
Okay, makes sense for the service to self path.
Oh, but
What about fifth density negative?
there's a shift. About 50%, so half, eventually gain the discipline needed for thought-based travel. They can achieve that level of mental control, but then as they approach sixth density negative, which is a very difficult state to maintain, Ra mentions a kind of confusion setting in.
Confusion.
Yes, a confusion that actually starts to limit their travel abilities. In that state, only about 73% of their travel is by thought or light.
That's really interesting. It implies a kind of inherent limitation or instability in the negative path at those higher levels.
It really does. It hints that the lack of unity, the core of negativity, becomes increasingly difficult to sustain as you approach the frequencies of pure unity.
A fundamental incompatibility, maybe. So the questioner then digs a bit deeper. Are the kinds of personality disciplines needed for travel different between high fifth density positives and negatives?
Ra's answer here is quite nuanced. They say, while the orientations service to others versus service to self are obviously worlds apart, leading to totally different motives,
Right.
the actual completion of self-knowledge needed to master thought travel is fundamentally the same for both polarities at that level.
So both need to understand themselves deeply to do it.
Exactly. Both have to reach a comprehensive understanding of their own being, their own consciousness, to manipulate it in that way. The intention behind using that ability is radically different, of course.
Like mastering the same powerful tool, but using it for opposite purposes.
That's a perfect analogy, yes.
Okay, so the questioner then sort of summarizes, suggesting that these fifth density entities, both positive and negative, probably see discipline of personality, self-knowledge, and strengthening the will as pretty important. Is Ra fully on board with that?
Ra confirms these are vital, yeah. Not just in fifth, but all the way from third density up into early seventh. But then Ra introduces a really crucial distinction, especially around the word control.
Ah, control. That often trips people up.
It does. We tend to think discipline means strict control over thoughts and impulses. Ra cautions against this. Unless that control is specifically stopping you from acting against the law of last, one like harming another, trying to rigidly control and suppress parts of yourself can actually hinder growth
How so?
because it creates imbalances. You're pushing parts of yourself away, parts that might need understanding or integration. Ra says this can lead to needing more lifetimes to sort it all out, to find balance again.
So what's the alternative to that kind of rigid control?
Ra recommends acceptance of self, forgiveness of self, and the direction of the will.
Direction, not suppression.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging all parts of yourself, forgiving perceived flaws, and then consciously choosing where you direct your energy, your focus, your will. That's the path to a truly disciplined, integrated personality.
That feels much more holistic and healthier, probably.
It does. And Ra stresses the immense power of the will. It's our co-creative ability.
Co-creator power.
Yes. And on the positive path, it must be used carefully, consciously, in service to others. Ra also warns that as your personality gets stronger, your will could even start acting subconsciously in ways that actually reduce your positive polarity if you're not self-aware.
Wow. Okay. So constant vigilance and clear intention are key.
Absolutely. It's a powerful force.
This whole discussion about will, self-knowledge, acceptance, it really feels relevant to our own lives right now.
Which leads the questioner to make a connection. Could this be related to why so many wanderers choose to come to Earth, specifically now during harvest? Is that link valid?
Yes, Rock confirms that connection directly. They say, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that the chance to remember what's been lost in the forgetting process, well, it offers a huge opportunity for positive polarization.
So the very challenge of being here and forgetting, then remembering, that's the catalyst. That's a massive part of it. For a higher density being to choose incarnation here, face the veil of forgetting, and then strive to awaken to their mission and purpose. Ross sees that struggle itself as an incredibly potent way to accelerate positive growth. They say the questioner's idea captures the heart of it.
So navigating this dense reality is like a spiritual forge for these advanced souls. Okay, so the questioner then asks plainly, what are the specific reasons wanderers pick harvest time to incarnate?
Ra gives several reasons, breaking them down by motivation towards other self and self. The biggest reason, the overriding one concerning other self, is simply service, wanting to help humanity during this critical transition time.
How do they help?
By their very presence, they help lighten the planetary consciousness distortions, and they act as catalysts, offering insights or perspectives that might help awaken others, potentially increasing the number of souls ready for the positive fourth density harvest.
That's incredibly selfless. What about the reasons related to their own self?
Two main ones there. First, the intensity of third density life offers much richer, more potent catalyst for rapid positive polarization compared to the subtler energies of higher densities, which Ra calls more etiolated or pale.
So faster growth potential here,
Yes.
paradoxically.
Yes. And second, for entities, especially those moving into or through sixth density, where balancing wisdom and compassion is key.
Right, the great balancing act.
Incarnating here offers a unique chance to use third density experiences to fine-tune that balance, to readdress any perceived gaps in their own learning and teaching.
So it serves others and serves their own continued refinement, a double benefit.
Exactly, a profound commitment on multiple levels.
Okay, the conversation then takes a slight turn. The questioner brings up a personal curiosity about the slingshot effect again, and they lay out their own intuitive understanding involving energy, light speed, time dilation, a 90-degree shift into time-space, energy reversal.
Mm.
It's quite a detailed hypothesis.
Yeah.
How does Rai react to this?
It's quite remarkable, actually. Ra is very positive in their response. They essentially say the questioner's grasp is quite correct given the limits of language and their specific scientific training.
Wow, validation.
Yes. Ra even humbly suggests the questioner might be better at explaining the mechanics than Ra is due to that specific background. The only tweak Ra offers is that the 90-degree angle mentioned. It's best seen as part of a tesseract.
A tesseract, like a 4D cube.
Exactly, suggesting a more complex, multi-dimensional understanding of how that shift works. But overall, it's a strong affirmation of the questioner's intuitive leap.
That really shows how deeply the questioner was engaging with this material. Okay, after a minor point, they ask a really fundamental question for anyone on the service to others path here in third density. Is there anything else important besides those disciplines we discussed? Personality, self-knowledge, will. What does Ra say is truly central?
And this, for me, is maybe the most crucial teaching in the whole session. It really gets to the heart of it. Ra says very clearly that all those things, discipline, self-knowledge, well, they're important, yes, but they are technique. They aren't the heart of evolution.
Not the core. So what is?
The core, the absolute foundation, is the understanding of unity, the knowing that we are all one.
Mhm.
And within that unity, Ra says, lies love. And within that unity also lies light.
Unity, love, light.
Yes, and Ra adds joy to that list. These, they declare, are the fundamental teachings of all material existence. This is the real curriculum.
Wow, everything else flows from that.
Pretty much. Ra says things like meditation and service are second-ranking lessons. The techniques, the disciplines we talked about, they only really become effective when the mind, body, spirit is already activated and balanced by these core understandings. Unity, love, light, joy.
So get the foundation right first.
Exactly. And Ra ends that point with a powerful reminder. Always begin and end in the Creator and that awareness of unity, not just in technique. The mystery of the universe is one unbroken whole.
That's profound. A vital perspective shift. Okay, nearly at the end of this session. The questioner circles back to something from the previous session, the light bringers from the octave. They ask, are these beings literally from an octave above ours? And can Ra tell us more about them?
Ra describes this higher octave density as being both omega and alpha, the end and the beginning.
The spiritual mass of infinite universes coming back together.
Yes, becoming one central sun, the creator, again. And from that unification, a new universe, a new infinity, a new logos is born, carrying all the experiences forward.
And wanderers exist there too.
Apparently so, Ra mentions that, but they also say very little is actually known across that boundary between octaves. What is known or understood is that these light bringers come from there specifically to aid our octave in reaching its own completion, its logos fulfillment.
So cosmic assistance from a higher cycle of creation. That's mind-bending.
It truly is a glimpse into vast cosmic cycles and interconnectedness.
And finally, the session wraps up with a very practical check-in, right?
Yeah.
But the instrument's well-being.
Yes, just a brief question about Carla's comfort. Ra confirms she has a slight lung issue, but it's being managed well by her physical positioning, and everything is fine with the contact.
Okay. So wrapping up our deep dive into session 52. Wow, we've covered some really significant ground. That primacy of inner work over tech, the nuanced view of control versus acceptance and directed will, the motivations of wanderers.
And that core message about unity, love, light, and joy being the heart of it all.
Exactly. Plus that peek into higher octaves. Just incredible depth here. For me, I think the biggest takeaway is that constant reminder to anchor in the heart in unity, love, light, to see the technique serve that, not become the sole focus. What stood out most for you?
I think it's the way Ra connects everything. How travel methods link to polarity, which links to self-knowledge, which links to the reasons wanderers incarnate, which all flows back to the fundamental nature of the creator's journey through densities. It's all one seamless tapestry, really.
That's beautifully put, a seamless tapestry. And for you, our listener, perhaps take a moment to consider, how does this focus on interdiscipline, on interconnectedness, and especially on unity, love, light, and joy, how might that shape or inform your own path of learning and service right now? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator, Adonai.
Until our next exploration into the depths of understanding, may your path be filled with joy and illumination.